All right, it's time to get started. Welcome back. I have gotten homework submissions from a lot of people already. The homework is due tomorrow night, like before midnight tomorrow. So it's fine if you didn't do it yet, but some people have done it. That's all I'm saying. Please let me know if you have. Somebody told me they're having problems with getting the Gradescope to work. I would be happy to try and help out if you're having technical issues. I hope that that's never, a serious problem for you. If you really ever, if Gradescope somehow goes offline or something, there's some kind of disaster, you can always email your homework to me if you're worried about missing the due date because of some technical issues. That's fine. I had one thing to say about the quiz, right? We are going to have our first quiz on Friday, and it will be based on the homework assignment. By the way, I also wanted to mention, I think the homework, in my opinion, the homework assignment this week is kind of short and easy, more so than usual, just because we didn't do a whole lot of new material. A lot of last week was just kind of introductory. So don't expect it to be as easy as this one was. I hope you don't feel like it was super complicated. But the quiz will be at the beginning of class on Friday. Like I said, we will just take like the first 10 minutes or so of class on Friday and do the quiz. So don't be late. And also, if you are receiving accommodations for extra time or whatever, there are a few in that category in this class. You got to talk to me before our quiz just to make sure that we have agreed upon, something to do about that. So please let me know. I did get some emails. I get an email from the accessibility office people, but I also need to talk to you individually. And thank you to those of you who I have already spoken to about that. All right. Any questions about the quiz? It's meant to be just very similar to the homework questions. We do it for the first 10 minutes or so. We are going to, I am going to ask you to submit the quizzes on Gradescope. So I hope that you are savvy enough with the Gradescope by then to bring your phone and let your thumbs do the talking. All right? Any questions about that? Great. Okay, let's talk some more. I want to talk some more about ranked choice voting. Welcome back. This is what we talked about towards the end last time. Is that a Tilly hat?
I'm not sure. It's a fishing cap,
All right, yeah. I have a similar
they're
hat.
good for this weather, because rains and stuff.
You never know.
Yeah.
Okay, ranked choice voting is what I want to talk about. And I thought we could start off with this, the voting that we all did for the best movie ever, all right? I hope that you have your paper of this. If not, the numbers are right there. I have a few extras if anybody would like an extra of these. Okay. Actually, I don't have any extras. So you'll have to copy it from the screen if you want to follow along and don't have this paper. Sorry about that. You can get these, I posted the PDF of this at the class website if you ever need to go and get it. I would like to decide the winner of this election using the ranked choice voting. I hope you remember how this works. If you did the homework recently, you probably remember. The way to do it is you count up, first of all, how many of each of the candidates is being ranked in the top position, which that is the way that you would usually decide the election if it were not ranked choices. If you were, actually, that's called the plurality. So that's round one. We count up the top positions of each of the four alternatives. And you just have to look at that chart there. Taking into account the numbers, how many times does H appear in the top? It's 1, and then 4 more, and then 2 more. So that would be 7 times. And actually, if you think about it, that's exactly the same business that we did here when we counted up the plurality winner. So anyway, in round one, I'm just counting the top positions. H gets 7. This I can just copy from, because I already did the plurality. S gets 13, and T gets 7. Sorry, I'm off the map. All right? those are the results from round one, just counting up the top ranked positions for each candidate. All right? And then the way that the ranked choice works is in each round, you eliminate the candidate with the fewest votes in the first position. So in this case, we eliminate the Lord of the Rings, only got 2 votes in the top position. So L gets eliminated. And then we rerun. We don't actually make people vote again. We just look at the chart again. Redo everything without the L's. Now, you can, I'm going to copy this down. Maybe you don't need to copy it all. I'm going to go off the screen here, so I'm going to try. Try this one more time. Copy. Okay, that's just so that I can scroll. This is the original chart here. Anyway, when I eliminate L, I go, this is round 2 now, all right? And I'm going to redraw the chart, but leaving out all the L's. This, if this sounds like a very kind of annoying, big example to you, you are correct. This is like the biggest example we're ever going to do. So if this seems overcomplicated, this is the only time in your life you're going to do one this complicated. Okay, I'm going to redraw that whole chart, but eliminating all the L's. So it says H, S, T in the first column, right? There used to be an L here, but I'm eliminating this L, and the S and the T, they get bumped up because that L is gone. All right, then 4 people said H, S, T. Then 2 people said H, T, S. I hope you're following along. I am copying these columns again, but just omitting the L every time I see it. All right, all the numbers stay the same. The next column is here, L, S, T, H. The L goes away. It's 1 person, S, T, H. Next, 1 person, T, S, H. Next is the column with a 5 on it, S, H, T. Next is the column with a 1, S, H, like a pie, S, H, T again. I hope I'm doing this right. Next is the column with a 6, S, L, H, T. The L goes away, it's S, H, T. Next is a 1, S, T, H. Another 1 is T, H, S. In the real world, this is all done by computers, which are good at doing this kind of thing. I am likely to mess it up. So are you probably. That's all right. All right, I'm on this column here, T, H, S, L. I get rid of the L, it's T, H, S. The last column there with the 1 on top is going to be T, H, S also. Then finally, a 2, T, S, H, and a 2, T, S, H. All right, I hope that I did that correctly. There is, of course, a lot of opportunity to mess it up when you're doing this. I hope I did it right. As far as like on the quiz or something, I'm not going to screw you on your grade if you just mess it up. Okay, everybody with me so far? Can I just say, one thing that some people, when I see this, somebody actually asked me already, someone sent me an email, said, you know, on the homework, when I'm doing the homework, do I have to write the answer the same way that you do, or like, can I do it my own way as long as I do it right? And my response is, yes, you can do it your own way as long as you get the right answer. That's totally fine. You know, if you want to see other people and learn how to do this from somebody other than me, that's totally fine with me. There's many fish in the sea. As long as you're doing it right, I don't care how you write your answer. One thing that I see sometimes when people do this on their homework, they're like, I don't want to write all that. Can I just like scribble out all the L's? Scribble, 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 scribble. Right? You can do that. That's all right, I guess. And then when you look at this with all the L's scribbled, it kind of looks like that, right? You just have to sort of shove everybody up in your head a little bit. That's fine with me. But you should make sure you're writing things in a way which I can understand what you did, rather than just only a bunch of scribbles. But that's fine with me if you want to scribble rather than redrawing the chart every time. Anyway, now I count up again. H, this time the L is gone, but I count up the H, S, and T. How many times does each one appear in the top position? The H's, I see 1. You have to count the numbers, so this is 1. 4 more is 5. 6, 7, and that's it. So H is on top 7 times. The S is here 1, 5 more is 6, 7, plus 6 more is 13, and 14. So I think the S is on top 14 times. I hope this is the same numbers that you're getting. And then the T is on top here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times. The T is on 8. Anybody agree or disagree? Yes.
I just have a question about when you're rewriting it. For the
Yeah.
votes that are the same, can you just combine the numbers before you rewrite it?
Yes, if you'd like to. Yeah. I find it a little confusing to do that on the fly, but if you want to do that, that's totally fine. Like, for example, I wrote here 2 columns with HST, with a 1 on top and a 4 on top. You could write this as 1 column with a 5 on top.
Okay.
I think that's what she meant.
Yeah.
And here I have like several THSs. Those, if you want to, you can put them all together as a single column. THS with, that would be 3 on top, because there's 3 from before. Yeah, great. All right, that was round 2. We eliminate H, right? Because H has the fewest first place votes. And then the final round is just between S and T. Sometimes, I don't know if you any scribblers in the audience, you could just go back up here and now scribble all the H's, right? Scribble. That's all right. You want to play it that way. And then count up. Now, it's just S versus T, right? So now I'm going to go, round 3 is S versus T. I am going to redraw this, rewrite the columns. It's not so bad. S and T. I try to write it, while I'm doing this in class, I try to write it in as much detail as possible just so that it's clear. But if you want to abbreviate some of this, that's totally fine. I am copying the chart, but ignoring the H's. It's only S's and T's now. 1 ST, 1 TS, 1 TS, 1 TS, 2 TS, and 2 TS. I think I copied that correctly. And now we just count up how many votes for S, how many votes for T. The S gets, make sure you take the numbers into account as usual. 1 here, 4 more is 5, and then 6, and then 5 more is 11, 12, and 6 is 18, 19. I think it's 19. Anybody agree? Yes. And the T's. I got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 for T. And so, finally, the winner is S. S is the winner with the ranked choice voting. All right?
So does it win every time? Did Star Wars win every time?
Yeah, I guess we did this with plurality once,
Yeah.
in which
Yeah.
case the Star Wars was the winner. Yeah. And they also won with the ranked choice. So this suggests to me that the fact that Star Wars won with the plurality was not just a fluke. Like last time we talked about some examples where plurality sometimes can make weird choices. The ranked choice is not infallible, but at least the fact that the Star Wars won both times suggests to me this is good evidence that the people like the Star Wars. All right. Any questions about that? Yes.
Yeah, for the quiz on Friday.
Yes.
The answer, should we just put Star Wars wins, or should we put in a sentence, or how would you like your response?
No, this is fine if you write something like that. Yeah. I appreciate the sentence, but it's not a big deal. Yes.
Can you use any homework or notes on the quiz, or is
Nope. So you have to remember how to do this. Not so onerous, I hope. All right. I wanted to say, if you are a scribbler rather than a chart copier, which is totally fine, like I said, I hope that you would not just, as your whole answer. This is the only thing I don't like about scribbling on the chart is people just scribble, and then they say S wins, and that's the end. Like this, in some extreme version of scribbling, maybe you can do the whole thing in your head and only write this. This is not very clear to me how you did it, though, in that case. And when you're showing me the answer, like I said, you can do this however you like, but it is your job on a quiz or on a homework to demonstrate to me that you know how to get the answer. And this here actually is not terribly descriptive of what did you actually do, other than scribbling a bunch of things and then telling me who the winner is. So at least I would say you should write down, even if you're scribbling, you should write down this much, just so that I can see that you understand this is going in rounds, which have sort of intermediate results each time, all right? Then I would be convinced that you actually know what you're doing, all right? Just make sure when you're writing your answers that they actually are readable to me, that I can actually understand what you're doing. All right, I want to try another example, and this is something that I like to do. I don't think we did this at all last time, but I like to do this every so often. I would like to try this old example from this other handout. I do have some extras of these if anybody wants. Decide the winner using the ranked choice. And while you are working on that, I am going to walk around. This one is less convoluted, so here's the chart, right? And this we did with plurality last time. I'm going to walk around just to make sure you are doing all right. I'm not trying to evaluate you or grade you when I'm walking around here. I am just trying to be helpful. If you don't know what's going on, let me know, and I would try to help you out. Would anybody like another paper of this? I mean, it's right there, but I got extras too. Nope. All right, see what you think. Take a few minutes. Decide the winner using ranked choice. In this example, A was the winner with plurality. And actually, you can use those numbers right there as the first round, but then you do more rounds. Sure. All right. All right. Okay. Do it right, you should get the winner is D. That's what you got. going to start writing my answer up here.
Excuse me.
Yes.
What would you do if there was a tie?
Yeah, I'm going to mention that in a moment. If there's a tie, it only matters if there's a tie like at the bottom, right? Because you're eliminating the lowest. But in that case, you eliminate everybody who is tied. So if there were two tied, they both get eliminated. That's a good question. You're going to have to do that on the homework, actually. All right, can we chat about these? As I walked around, it looked like most people were doing great. You should have eliminated B in the first round because they got only 4 top position votes. And then eliminating B, redraw the chart. It looks like this. And now I count up the top position rankings again. A has 14 still because they're on the top only over here. C is on the top 10 times here, plus an additional 1 time here. So C has 11. And D has the 8 and the 4 here, which is 12. So D is 12. All right. Somebody asked me, this is a good question, and actually this will come up when you do the homework. What do you do if there's a tie when it comes to eliminating somebody? If there's a tie, actually ties for first place don't matter because you're eliminating the person who's in last place. But if there's a tie for last place, you eliminate everybody who is tied. So if I had 2 people that were tied at any point, you just eliminate both of them in that round. Anyway, it didn't happen this time. I'm going to eliminate C, right? Because they had 11, which is the lowest in that round. And so it's just left with A and D now. 14 A, D, 10 said D, A, 8 said D, A, 4 said D, A, 1 said D, A. And it looks like A is up top 14 times, only in the first column. And D gets all the others, which is 10 and 8 and 4 and 1, which I believe adds up to 23. All right, so D is the winner. I hope that went okay for you. Anybody got questions about that? This is how the ranked choice voting works. All right, yes?
I know we were debating last class, but like, which do you think accurately represents this better?
Yeah, which is better, like in the real world? If you this is somewhat of a political opinion question. Actually, I was going to talk a little bit about this in a few minutes. So can I delay until then? I wanted to do one more example. This is a great question, by the way. I mean, the whole point of talking about these things at all is perhaps to think about maybe we should use this or that system in the real world. I wanted to just do one more example, which is actually simpler. This is inspired by the real world example. This is the Bush-Gore Nader election. Remember that? We talked about this last time. The Bush-Gore Nader election in the state of Florida, which was very close between Bush and Gore. Bush ended up being the winner, even though the difference was sort of negligible statistically speaking. But technically Bush got more votes, and so he was the winner. I will remind you of this is sort of a thought experiment we talked about. If the voters had ranked their choices, I'm doing these numbers here in millions, and I'm just going to sort of round the numbers. All of this rounding doesn't matter for the purposes of what I'm talking about here. You could use the exact numbers, it doesn't make a difference. So this was the election in which, let's say 2.9 million people voted for Bush on the ballot. We can assume that those people would have also preferred Gore better than Nader, just because of the political situation of Bush, Gore, and Nader, what they were campaigning about. 2.9 million people also put Gore on the ballot. This is very slightly less than that, but the difference is negligible. And then we're going to assume this is charitable to Bush. Let's assume that all those people would have put Bush in the second position and then Nader at the bottom. Probably not accurate, but I'm being generous with Bush there. And then in the last column, these are the people who voted for Nader. they would have preferred Gore over Bush to win the election. That's conjecture, but more or less everybody agrees with that. All right. What if we had decided this using the plurality? Bush was the winner. I mean, that's what they actually did in the real world. So using plurality, we only consider the top position, and I mean, because I rounded, it looks like a tie, but actually Bush was slightly ahead. So using plurality, Bush wins. This we talked about last time. All right. What if we use the ranked choice instead? What if they had used ranked choice? This, I mean, you can almost do this whole thing in your head because it's such a simple breakdown here. Who should be eliminated in the first round? Nader, obviously. Nobody thought Nader was going to win, and Nader should get eliminated. So in round one, the totals would be Bush gets 2.9 million, Gore gets 2.9, Nader gets 0.1, and we eliminate Nader in the first round. And so round two, my chart looks like 2.9 say Bush Gore, 2.9 say Gore Bush, 0.1 say Gore Bush. All right, I have eliminated Nader from the election, and then when I add up the totals now, just between Bush and Gore, what do I get for Bush? 2.9, and for Gore, it looks like an even 3, right? Gore gets 2.9 plus the 0.1. I'll write that out, but I know how to add decimals. Is 3, and so Gore wins. G wins. All right. The way that the ranked choice works, it's meant to sort of pass your votes on to your second choice if it turns out that your first choice loses. And that's exactly what happens when we do the ranked choice in this case. Pretty much nobody thought that Nader was going to win. And so all of those people, if you're using ranked choice, all of those people can still vote for Nader. And then they don't have to worry about their vote getting, like, not counting for anything, because they can vote for Nader. They know Nader's going to get kicked out in the first round, and then their vote will count for Gore or Bush, although in this case, those people probably didn't like Bush at all. All right. This is the idea. This is one reason why people really like ranked choice voting in the real world. And if I want to be honest about my own personal opinion, I kind of do like ranked choice voting in the real world for this reason. Because, can I say it this way, in the plurality system, this is something that just everybody is used to in America, so we don't really think about it that much, but it actually is something that's worth thinking about. In the plurality system, nobody, more or less, there are exceptions, but nobody likes to vote for outsiders, like Nader, or, I mean, this Nader was in the year 2000. There are other outsiders today. Nobody takes them seriously. We all know that they're not going to win. And nobody likes to vote for them because they know that they're going to lose, and then their vote just counts for nothing, right? Nobody likes to vote for outsiders like Nader because, and there's sort of a common phrase, because this is equivalent to, they say, throwing your vote away. Right? Don't vote for Nader because we all know Nader's not going to win. You better vote for one of Bush or Gore because those are the only real contenders. All right? Voting, there's sort of, this is just a fact about running elections using the plurality system. Voting for the loser, or voting for a loser in plurality is pointless, right? This is a basic fact of, like I said, we, in American politics, we don't really even think about this just because we all know it on such a basic level. Voting for, if the person you're gonna vote for is not gonna win, then you might as well not vote at all, all right? And actually, this affects our politics. It means that if you are, say, running for president and trying to convince people to vote for you, One way to do that is to actually like have good ideas to improve our country or whatever, and make people vote for you because you are going to be the best president. Or you could just say, I'm going to win and the other guy's going to lose. And if people believe that the other guy's going to lose, then they're not going to vote for them. All right. And actually, you can see this in presidential campaigns. This is something that Trump said over and over again when he was running against Hillary Clinton. When all of the polling said that Clinton was going to win, he said over and over again, she's not going to win, I'm going to win. And this actually, I'm not saying that's, like, he ended up winning, right? I don't think it's because he said that, but this is actually an effective campaigning tactic in a plurality system. You don't have to convince people that you're going to be a good president. You can win by convincing people that you're going to win, and then nobody's going to vote for the other guy. This is a very, in my opinion, that's a messed up incentive. Like you have this is another reason why candidates will never admit that they're losing. I remember an interview I saw once with, they were talking about, this was when John McCain was running for president against Obama, and McCain, like before the election, a few days before the election, McCain was down in the polls. Like it seemed to everybody that Obama was going to win, and Obama did win. But I remember an interview with one of McCain's campaign managers, and they said, "Hey, it's a few days before the election, and you're like down by 10 points in the polls. What do you think about that?" And you know, when they asked this question, I knew there is no way this guy is going to say, yeah, we're probably not going to win, because you cannot say that in American politics. He said, "Yeah, I know the polls show that we're down, but let me tell you, this is exactly where we want to be," which is a ridiculous thing to say. I mean, obviously you don't want to be down in the polls, but they have to somehow give you some kind of positive spin on that. The campaigns at all times need to maintain this kind of line that says, "Yeah, we're gonna win," even if it's obvious that they're not. This to me is a messed up system if it makes it so that everybody sort of has to lie about this. All right, voting for a loser in a plurality election is pointless. This is contrasted to in the ranked choice voting, though. The voters are free to vote for somebody like Nader, somebody who is not going to win. The voters can vote for a loser in the top position without worrying about this effect, right? Without worrying about throwing their vote away. And this, I mean, to me personally, I like this because I would like to be able to, because I think my own temperament, I am generally skeptic of the political parties, the Democrats and the Republicans. I have my own personal favorite, which I don't need to get into, but I do think that there is something undemocratic about the fact that we basically only have two choices every time that we vote for important positions. I wish that there was more variety for myself. That's just how I personally feel. And so for that reason, I kind of like the ranked choice voting, because if we were voting in that way, it would mean I didn't have to put the Democrat or the Republican at the top of my vote. With the elections as we do them now with plurality, I always vote for the Democrat or the Republican. Actually, I always vote for one of them and not the other one, but I'm not going to tell you about that. Even though, I don't know, there might be some outsider who I actually like better, but I would never vote for them because I don't want to, I want my vote to count for something, and I don't feel strongly about the principle of voting for the outsider. To me, I don't feel that way. All right, so the voters can vote for a loser. The effect of that is that the plurality system, if you think about it this way, the plurality system makes the two parties kind of invincible. Because it means if you are using a plurality system, there is a very, very strong disincentive for anybody to vote for Nader or for any outsider, because just like I said, I'm never going to vote for an outsider because I want my vote to count. And in the plurality system, the way for your vote to count is for you to vote for one of the two parties. Voting for an outsider is never going to actually accomplish any of my goals in terms of actually electing somebody, because the outsiders can't be elected. All right. There's actually, this has been noticed in political science for a long time, and there's a name for this. This is called, and I'm not a political scientist, but and this is Duverger's law. I don't know how you're supposed to pronounce it. This is the person's name. Duverger's law. It says societies which use the plurality system for their elections eventually become two-party societies. All right. You probably know, like in early American history, there were not just two parties. There were more than two parties. But after a while, once your society locks into two parties, if you're using the plurality system, it becomes essentially impossible to break that lock of the two parties, because there's no way for a guy like Nader, even if a lot of people like Nader, they're not going to vote for him because he's an outsider. All right. This is sort of a law from political science. This is not like an infallible law of physics or something like that. But it does tend to, if you just look at global politics, this tends to be true, that places which use the two-party system, or places which use the plurality system, given long enough time, they eventually become two-party states, and it becomes impossible to break the stranglehold of the two parties. This is why if you ask people in America if they like ranked choice voting, most ordinary people don't even really understand what it is. But the people who like ranked choice voting are people like Nader, or people who are sort of political outsiders, and the people who don't like it are the super loyal party guys. So people who are big shots in the Republican Party don't like ranked choice because they see it as a threat to the dominance of the party, which it is. People in the Democratic Party tend to like this, even real Democratic Party loyalists. They tend to like ranked choice voting, I think because, they might like it just for sort of reasons that they think it's more democratic than plurality. But it does seem that in our current political climate, the ranked choice voting is favoring Democrats more so than Republicans, because I'm not sure exactly what the reasons for that is, but that's it's not always been that case. You got a comment?
I Democrats are favored because they tend to present more moderate candidates. For example, the Alaska election, where you had two Republicans versus one Democrat. So the other Republican candidate that didn't get, wasn't the third choice, all the votes went to the Democrats. So that's mostly why Democrats are in favor.
Yeah, I think the ranked choice does tend to help out moderates rather than extreme candidates. And you could say that maybe the Democrats are a little more comfortable with moderates than the Republicans are. Yeah, I'm not a real political junkie. I pay attention, but yeah. Actually, so he mentioned the Alaska election. I wanted to talk about the Alaska election in particular. So this happened just a few weeks ago. This was our last kind of real-world example about ranked choice, and then we're going to talk about something completely different. So this is in August 2022. There was a real ranked choice vote in the state of Alaska. This is a replacement for the U.S. Congress. I believe the old congressman died. Does anybody know the details of this?
Yeah.
The guy died. He was a Republican, and then they had to have an election to replace him. And this it was just decided, and so there is a new congressperson for Alaska, but only until November. Like when the ordinary scheduled election happens in November, they're going to just this person's term will be up. So it's a very short term appointment. But anyway, here are the candidates. There were 3 candidates on the ballot. Candidates. There was Nick Begich. Is that how he says it? I don't know. I've never heard someone say that name out loud. Nick. I'm going to call this N for Nick. He's a Republican, but kind of middle of the ground. So he's a Republican, I will say moderate. For example, he's not a big fan of Trump. I don't know if he has like denounced Trump, but he has in particular said that he believes that Joe Biden won the presidential election, which not all of the Trumpers would admit that, would be willing to say that. So this is Nick. He's sort of the moderate Republican. There is also Sarah Palin. I'll call her S. She is a more extreme Republican. I will say she's sort of Trumpy. Donald Trump officially endorsed her. She, often talks about how Biden stole the presidential election and everything, all the sort of hallmarks of Donald Trump. She is into it. And then the last one I will write with an M. Mary Peltola. She is a Democrat. And if you read coverage about this, that's pretty much all they say about her. She's a Democrat. That's enough to tell you the difference between her and the other two. I'm abbreviating using their first names because 2 of them have P as their last name. So N, S, and M are Nick, Sarah, and Mary. All right, they all appeared on the ballot. Now, it may not surprise you that these 2 Republicans were a little bit upset that they were both on the ballot, and each one demanded that the other one drop out because they didn't want to have 2 different Republicans on the ballot, but they both refused to drop out. Yeah.
I was gonna say, in order for like ranked choice for voting to be like fair, shouldn't there be the same number of candidates on each side? This is just splitting.
Yeah, so this is an interesting thing. In the plurality system, you would never do this because all the Republicans, you might say,
in the ranked choice.
maybe they would go 50-50. Yeah, in the ranked choice, actually, if you think about it, this is not such a big deal. Because if you think of like all the Republicans, maybe half of them will put Nick on top and the other half will put Sarah on top. If one of them gets eliminated in the first round, then all of those votes say Nick was eliminated. Then the hardcore Republicans who voted for Nick, they're going to transfer their votes to Sarah in the second round, and it'll all be okay. This is something in the plurality system, you would never put 2 people in the same party on the ballot because you would expect, it's called vote splitting, you would expect all the Republicans to more or less split their votes in half and half for the 2, and then the Democrat would win easily. Yeah.
But wouldn't it make more sense if you had like 2 Republicans and 2 Democrats?
I mean, initially the law, ranked choice voting in Alaska mandated 4 candidates, and the other 4th candidate was Democrat/Independent, but then he dropped out of the election and endorsed Pelota for the.
Okay, this guy knows what he's talking about. Yeah. I saw when I was reading about this. I saw there was some rule about the ranked choice is supposed to have 4 candidates. Although this is not a mathematical rule. This is just. I actually don't understand the purpose of that rule because it's not unfair to have 2 Republicans on here and only 1 Democrat. If you are worried about people splitting their votes, all of those problems go away when you do the rounds of the ranked choice. So I'm actually not sure why they have that rule, but yeah.
But like, what if some of the more moderate Republicans like put Mary Peltola as their second vote,
Mm-hmm.
so it doesn't necessarily automatically transfer to the other Republicans?
That's right. But yeah, if those people, say for example, if there are a lot of people who think Nick was the best, and then their second choice is Mary, and then Sarah, then their votes should transfer to Mary, don't you think?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's a little. If you're unused to thinking about ranked choice, it can be a little confusing. Anyway, I will show you what the actual. I looked up the numbers on this. So I did want to say specifically, and I think several people said this, in a plurality election, you'd never run two R's on the ballot. If you think about it, this is kind of the whole reason why we have a short ballot, is so that the parties won't be splitting their votes with one another. Ballot. But if you're using ranked choice voting, this issue kind of disappears because of the way that the votes get transferred in the later rounds. Although it was still kind of bad for them, because, for instance, when they were campaigning, Nick and Sarah, they were not only campaigning against Mary, but they were also campaigning against one another. Like, I believe that Nick and Sarah both said, Nick, for instance, said that Sarah Palin is not qualified to be our representative. So they weren't just saying we are better than the Democrat, but they were saying, like, this other Republican is no good, and that can't be good for their results in terms of the election. Anyway, here's where the votes went to. Now, they the official, like the elections, the state of Alaska didn't officially release all of the rankings, but I'm going to tell you the results. These are in thousands. In thousands, 76,000 people put Mary on top, and then this is unfortunately, when you read the official results, they don't actually tell you what the other, because they don't matter. Mary ended up being the winner. I'll tell you. Spoiler alert. And so for that reason, it was never necessary to calculate the second place for these voters, because Mary was never eliminated. But so anyway, 76,000 people put Mary Peltola on top, and then some rankings of the other two. 59,000 put Sarah Palin on top, and then some other rankings of the other two. 27,000 people put Nick and then Sarah and then Mary. 15,000 people put Nick and then Mary and then Sarah. This is a little surprising. Just if all you care about are the parties, this is a vote which doesn't make a lot of sense. These are people who put the Republican first, and then the Democrat, and then the other Republican. I think the interpretation of this is just there are a lot of people who really hate Sarah Palin, or something like that. Maybe these people are not real party people. They're not super like partisan Republicans. They just like Nick a little bit better, and then they like Mary and then Sarah. These are people who are not party loyalists, apparently. And then 11,000 people put Nick on top, and then it was not published what else they said. All right. So, can we decide with the ranked choice voting? Of course, this was all done instantly by a computer somewhere, but we can work out the rounds here. So in round one, we count up the M's, the S's, the N's, right? People who put M first, there's 76,000 of them. I rounded the numbers, of course. You can look up the exact numbers if you want to. The people who put S first, there were 59,000. In the N's, you add these numbers, so it would be 27. Come on now. 27 plus 15 plus 11, which adds up, I did this to 53. All right, so Nick Begich lost in the first round. All right, so Nick was eliminated. And then round two, the votes are reallocated. So I get 76, still put M on top, 59, still put S on top. And then these are the more interesting ones. 27, sorry, I wrote this down wrong a little bit. In the original chart, I shouldn't have put those question marks there. This, when you do this in the real world, typically you allow the voters to just not rank some people if they don't want to. All right, and when they really did this was 11,000 people who put Nick on top and didn't rank anybody else. All right, you may ask, this is something we haven't talked about. What happens once Nick is eliminated? What do you do with those votes? Who do they transfer to? And the answer is they don't transfer to anybody. Those are referred to as exhausted votes. So after round one, these votes just disappear. All right. Why would somebody vote for just Nick and nobody else? I guess they liked Nick the best, and they didn't really like Sarah Palin or Mary Peltola, right? They said Nick or nothing. They got nothing, right? Their votes ended up not counting at all. This is, you want to allow people to do this. This is for people who are used to the plurality system and skeptical of ranking their choices. You say, all right, fine, you don't have to rank your choice. If you want to just vote for one person, go ahead, vote for one person. Anyway, so in round 2, 27,000 now say SM, right? 15,000 now say MS, and those 11,000 people those are called exhausted votes. Their votes don't end up counting for anybody. It was their own choice, all right? And now who wins between the M's and the S's? If you add this up, you get the M has 91, that's 76 plus 15, and the S has 86, which is 59 plus 27. All right, and so Mary Peltola wins. All right, this is how it went down. As far as ranked choice elections goes, this is not all that remarkable. Some people get really excited about a ranked choice election when somebody loses in the first round, but they end up winning in a later round, which can happen. The example that we did with the ABCD when I was walking around, that was a case in which A won in the first round, but they ended up losing eventually. But in this example, this is sort of, in that sense, kind of unremarkable because M was the winner in the first round and also the winner in the second round. There was no round in which one of these candidates looked like they were going to win and then they ended up not winning. All right. This is the way it really went down. I thought was interesting. I found an interesting quote. So there was a lot of sort of outrage after this election by people who I would say maybe did not understand how ranked choice voting works, or at least did not articulate themselves very well in their objections to this, saying that the only reason Peltola won was because of this like scam voting system that they were using, because of ranked voting. Here's a quote I found. I screenshotted it. This is a quote from former President Donald Trump. This was, they officially switched to ranked choice voting in Alaska several months ago, so everybody has known about this for a while. And this was at a Trump rally in July. He said, he was talking about ranked choice voting. So-and-so had 5 votes for 5th place, so we're going to give them the victory. It's crazy. It's crazy. Crazy ranked choice. You never know who won in ranked choice. You could be in 3rd place, they announced that you won the election. It's a total rigged deal, just like a lot of other things in this country. And this is actually typical of a lot of the response. There was sort of a slightly viral video of Sarah Palin, like the moment that she heard that she lost, and she was like, this is so crazy, this ranked choice is crazy. It is different. I think what I wanted to look at this Trump quote here. I don't mean to pick on Mr. Trump. Trump is known for sort of saying a lot of stuff off the cuff, which is not technically correct, but he's trying to impress the audience and make his point. This business, so-and-so had 5 votes for 5th place, so we're going to give them the victory. That actually is not, that is not possible in a ranked choice election, that somebody like gets a few votes in last place and somehow that makes them win. That can't really happen. This business I wanted to highlight. This is a thing that Trump said often. He constantly says that elections are rigged. When he was running against Hillary Clinton in several months leading up to the election, he was constantly saying that the election was rigged. I don't think he's really talking about the mathematics of the ranked choice voting system, right? The system of ranked choice voting is not rigged in any way. It's a different system from plurality. If you get a result that you don't like because of the ranked choice, then the people who lost are going to say, oh, that's that stupid rigged system. It's not actually a rigged system. It's just that you lost. And in this example, actually, it's not even because of this so-called rigged system that they lost. I mean, if they had used plurality, then the Mary Peltola still would have won anyway. So, a lot of people are skeptical of ranked choice voting. That's all I'm saying. Donald Trump, and also, as a little personal story, my own dear mother. I talked to my mom. I mentioned a few years ago the state of Massachusetts had a ballot measure about whether Massachusetts should switch to ranked choice voting, and my mom lives in Massachusetts, and I was excited. You know, I like ranked choice voting, and I was hoping that Massachusetts would switch, and so I asked my mom, hey, how about that ranked choice? Did you vote to change to the ranked choice? And she said, I don't know, it seems kind of complicated to me. And I was like, oh, Mom, let me down. It's not that complicated, and it's not a total rigged deal, Mom, and former President Trump. It's a hot issue these days, though. I just wanted to bring it to our attention. Any thoughts, comments about that? I don't mean to pick on Mr. Trump or my mom.
Yeah, I think it works as far as on local elections. I think it could work. As far as federal issues, those are a little too deep, the issues in which they have whatever principles they have to have ranked choice, I think, because the divisions are so wide between the two, it's so polarized. But I think in terms of a local election, why not? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, do you really want, this system for something that's going to impact your life so profoundly? I don't know. I don't think so.
Yeah, I think when you ask Americans about how they feel about ranked choice, it's usually the way the conversation goes is I'm presenting to you a new method, and you have to evaluate that new method. And people think, oh, it's a little complicated, it's a little strange the way that it works. I feel like and I'm not necessarily disagreeing, but the plurality system, to me, having thought about the plurality system, I see serious deficiencies in the plurality system. And I am tempted to ask myself, do I really want to be choosing the President of the United States using the plurality system, which is a very simple system, which I know in the past has made sort of questionable choices in terms of the mathematics of choosing the winner. Yeah, it's a complicated question, and people, of course, have different opinions about it. Something to think about, though. Like I said, I mean, this class, I don't intend to be about politics in that sense. We are just talking about the mathematics of it. But it's a big deal in our society, and I think the ranked choice is getting more and more acceptance. Some states and many cities have changed to using ranked choice. I don't know of any example of ones which switched to ranked choice and then decided they didn't like it and switched back. So we'll see where it goes, in the coming decades. All right. In our remaining 15 minutes, any other comments? Great. Let's talk about something a little different. Ranked choice. I actually, as I've said several times, I like the ranked choice, although I am not a real ranked choice crusader, because there are yet other ways that you can decide elections, not just this particular way with the rounds and eliminating, all right? There are many other ways that we could do elections, and to me, if you ask me, should we change our system away from plurality, I kind of don't like plurality, but there are many other things that we could change to. Why should it be ranked choice in particular? There are other ways. So I want to talk about yet another way to look at this. I think we can talk the basics in 15 minutes. Maybe not. We're getting there, though. So let's talk about another method entirely. And this is called Condorsay's method. The Condorsay method. This is related to last time, or maybe 2 times ago, I mentioned briefly this thing about the Condorsay paradox. This is something that was a sort of paradoxical behavior of voting which you realize when you analyze people's preferences in pairs. So looking at candidates in pairs. If you analyze the candidates in pairs and then try to decide the winner based on that, pairing them up, which is quite different from the ranked choice system. I thought we would just look at, just as a simple example, can we look at this Bush-Gore-Nader thing again? 2.9 million said Bush-Gore-Nader, 2.9 said Gore-Bush-Nader, and 0.1 said Nader-Gore-Bush. All right. I would like to consider these votes in terms of just comparing the candidates in pairs. And we did something like this a couple of times ago. But what if I just look at, let's say, pairwise, Bush versus Gore? Who would win in that case? I look at the votes here and ignore the naders and see what it looks like without the naders. Then I have 2.9 million with Bush above Gore, 2.9 with Gore above Bush, and another 0.1 with Gore above Bush. So here I see Bush has 2.9 and Gore has 3.0, right? This is similar to what we just said. This is what the ranked choice amounted to. But I'm going to look at the other pairings also, all right? We could have also done, what's another pair that I could make? Nader versus Gore, all right? And then the other one would be Nader versus Bush, right? There are 3 total pairings that you could make in this scenario. Nader versus Gore. How many put Nader above Gore? You have to look at this chart again, only considering the N's and the G's. How many people put Nader above Gore? What do you say? Just 0.1, right? Just the last column here puts Nader above Gore. And then the people who put Gore above Nader would be everybody else. That's 2.9 and another 2.9. Add those together, I believe, is 5.8, right? 2.9 plus 2.9. And then Nader versus Bush actually is going to be this similar result. Nader gets 0.1 on top, and everybody else goes for Bush, all right? So what we see here is when it's Bush versus Gore, Gore wins. When it's Nader versus Gore, Gore wins. And when it's Nader versus Bush, Bush wins, all right? And the Condorsay's method is based on looking at the results of these pairs and then trying to choose a winner based on these results over here, all right? Now, you might say we should choose a winner based on who wins all of these pairs, although it's not really possible for somebody to win. Like here you saw Gore won 2 of them, and but not the third. Is it possible for somebody to win all 3 of these? According to these numbers, it didn't happen, but could somebody win all 3? Like, could you imagine, for instance, monkeying the numbers here to make Gore win all 3 of these?
Yeah.
Like if I, say, gave Gore, instead of 2.9 here, give him like 99999. Does that make Gore win all 3 comparisons? Really, I'm asking, can you make Gore win the last comparison? No, because Gore's not even part of this comparison, right? Like, it doesn't even make sense to expect somebody to win all of the comparisons, because really, the best you could do is win every comparison that you're a part of, right? If you can win all the comparisons that you are a part of, then that's a pretty strong signal that you are a preferred candidate by the people. So here, that's the important thing to look at here. Gore wins all pairwise comparisons involving Gore. This is the best that somebody could possibly do if you win all pairwise comparisons involving Gore. All right. Of course, Gore cannot win Nader versus Bush. Only Nader or Bush can win Nader versus Bush. But Gore wins all pairwise comparisons involving Gore. And in this case, there's a word for that. Gore is called the Condorsay winner. That's named after this guy Condorsay because Condorsay's sort of big idea in analyzing elections was based on pairing them up one-on-one and seeing who would be the winner in each of these one-on-one matchups. All right, this is called the Condorsay winner. So I'm going to write like a somewhat more formal definition what this word means, Condorsay winner. A candidate who would win in any, I'm going to say, one-on-one matchup is called a Condorsay winner. All right, and that is what happened with the Bush-Gore Nader. If you ask people, do you like Gore better than Bush? Gore. You like Gore better than Nader? Gore. Well, it sounds like Gore is the best then, if Gore is better than each of the other two. All right. This is called a Condorsay winner. Somebody who, if you only consider them two at a time, somebody who is better than everybody else. Only consider two at a time. All right. So in that case, yeah, it was Gore was the Condorsay winner in that case. This is a little complicated to think about, and you might wonder, okay, Gore was the Condorsay winner in that case. Is it possible that like Bush was also the Condorsay winner? Gore won all of his comparisons. Maybe, is it possible that Bush also won all of Bush's comparisons? No? You say why not?
Because he didn't win the one versus.
Yeah, if you say Gore won all of his comparisons, then nobody else could also win all of theirs, because at some point you have to compare those two people and the Condorsay winner. So this actually, that basic idea, we got enough time to write this down. I'm going to write this as a theorem. This is a fancy math word. Mathematics is really all about theorems. A theorem is just a specific mathematical statement which you can write down and then prove. You can explain why it's true. You know, like the Pythagorean theorem is a theorem about the lengths of the sides of right triangles. Here's a theorem about Condorsay winners. It says there can only be one Condorsay winner. Actually, I'm going to say it differently. I'm going to say there can't be two. There cannot be two different Condorsay winners. All right? There cannot be two different Condorsay winners. If you know that Gore was the Condorsay winner, then Bush or Nader, they cannot also be the Condorsay winner. There's no such thing as two different. I want to write down the proof of this. This is what mathematicians are all about, really, is writing theorems and then proving them. We're not going to write a lot of proofs in this class, but I'm going to ask you to explain why something or other is going to be true. And this proof, we're going to do something which you probably heard of before. I want to do what we call a proof by contradiction. So there cannot be two different Condorsay winners. The way to explain that is you imagine that there was two, and then you somehow explain why that's not possible. So I'm going to say imagine, let's say we have two different Condorsay winners, and I will tell you why that actually can't happen. Let's call them, let's say, X and Y. All right? I'm trying to be generic with their names, and as you know, mathematicians like X and Y. So let's imagine that they are both Condorsay winners. What that means is, so X wins every pairwise match, and Y also wins every pairwise matchup. All right? And somebody said a few moments ago, but what's impossible about this? Why is this contradictory? Yeah.
Because if you put them up against each other, how are they?
Yeah, because at some point they have to match up with one another, and then they can't both win, right? So X wins every pairwise matchup, and Y also wins every pairwise matchup. I will just say, but this is impossible since they can't both win in the specific matchup X versus Y, right? And that's the end of the proof. This is why you cannot have two different Condorsay winners in an election. All right? We got 5 minutes. That's enough. I keep on saying it's enough time to do it, just a little bit more. We still have enough time. In our remaining 5 minutes, I will tell you specifically how you do Condorsay's method to decide the winner of an election. This is another thing you can do instead of plurality, instead of ranked choice. It's called Condorsay's method. And it says how you do it. You compare everybody in pairs. You compare all possible pairwise matchups. And then you choose the Condorsay winner as the winner of the election. This is called Condorsay's method. It's totally different from ranked choice or plurality. Yeah.
How do you know that you've done all the pairs?
Well, you have to be careful in writing down all the possible pairs, and we're gonna we will talk about that. I don't think we have time to do an example right now. Yeah, maybe we do. We got 4 minutes. I will finish with one example. Can we do? I don't think it's enough time to do it in 3 minutes. You have to make sure you get all the pairs. So this is a question that we will talk about. How do you make sure you got all the pairs? But let me just say, in the Bush-Gore-Nader, remember plurality makes Bush the winner. The ranked choice voting makes Gore the winner. And this Condorsay method, because we already did the details here, and we already saw that Gore would have won in any pairwise comparison. The Condorsay method makes Gore the winner in that example. All right. Next thing I want to do is the Condorsay method on this example here, but we will do that at the beginning next time.